Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. Your host, Catherine Jones, on This Needs to Be Read. Today's book is so spicy. I think you better make sure that you have your headphones in your ears. This isn't for the kids. I love it. I love it. Learning about something I've used all of my life, finding the history behind it, and to find out that sex is the reason that the internet even got started is like that blew my mind just now. So the book that we're going to read today or share today is How Sex Changed the Internet and the Internet Changed Sex, an Unexpected History. Our guest today is Samantha Cole. Welcome to This Needs to Be Read. How are you?
I'm good, Catherine. How are you today?
Fantastic. I think I wanted to say this needs to be sexed. I don't know what I was about to say. So tell us about Motherboard. Is that where you normally are given information on this topic?
Yeah, so I'm a journalist at Motherboard, which is Vice Media's tech outlet. I've been working at Motherboard for about 6 years now, and during that time, I've mostly been writing about sexuality and gender and sex education and things like that, all topics that are covered in this book. So normally I'm doing more news-type work as a journalist, but this book is more of a history of how we got here today.
And let's just go right into how did we get here today?
It's a long story, yeah. So kind of going in a big, wide view of the history of the internet and how it grew up alongside sexuality and how we express ourselves. I start in the book with in the 70s and the late 60s talking about the invention of the internet and how, very early on, the earliest ways we started communicating on the internet, which through like bulletin board systems and Usenet, things like that, were very quickly used to talk about sexuality, talk about porn, and share pictures and share stories and things like that, and find like-minded people. So it's very much kind of right from the jump. We see sexuality coming up with how people use the internet back then.
When I read that in your book, I thought, what was the first thing I did on the computer outside of learning how to type? It was chat rooms. It was more dot matrix kind of looking. It looked, but compared to now, it looks like something prehistoric, but it was always a chat. I remember there always being some form of a chat room, or you have an online buddy, sort of a pen pal system, and you were, even without the avatars that are coming now, that are here now, you were able to have conversations with people and be whoever you wanted to be. And the discovery, even back then, with the low tech that we had, of I'm not really talking to who I'm talking to, was hurtful. It's like, oh, I've been deceived on the computer, and now we have more access and more creativity to be deceived even more. And I want to know, what is a deep fake? So I'm wondering if what I'm talking about now is going into the deep fake world. I didn't look it up. I didn't read that part in the book. I wanted you to talk to me about it. I want it to be completely green when you tell me.
Yeah, going blind.
Get that.
I can explain that for sure. Yeah. So when we're talking about deep fakes, that's an invention that came up just in the last few years. So deep fakes are a way to use algorithms to swap someone's face onto someone else's body in a really realistic way. And I was one of the first journalists the first journalist to write about deepfakes, and to kind of explore what this would mean with, our concept of what is real, what is reality, what is true, what we see on the internet. Because if you can put someone's face on someone else's body and make them do, lots of other things, that would be devastating. So the earliest ways people used deepfakes were in porn. They wanted to see a celebrity in their favorite sex tape. So they would take pictures of, like Scarlett Johansson, for example, was a really big one. They would take her face and put it on their favorite porn performer's body, and then that would be like their fantasy, which is obviously brings up huge issues with like consent and trust and, stealing people's work and things like that. So we see deepfakes now being used still to kind of create this version of non-consensual porn and stealing people's work that way. So it's been an issue that's been ongoing since then. Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, we've experienced someone catfishing you or pretending to be someone else only for you to discover you're not talking to who you were talking to. So we've experienced a deep fake. We have. Or we've created one. And sometimes it's innocent. You're just doing something and you think it's like sticking it on your wall at home when you put it on social media, and it's not the same wall. It's your wall, but it's not your private wall. So you can't just mash up the idea of someone and think, oh, it's cool, and the person, if they saw it, they may not know it. They may not feel cool about it. We don't think that far ahead. We act as if we're really pinning stuff on our personal bedroom walls. So it's something to be mindful of. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's like, you're talking about like people's fantasies, and that's what they're trying to create. But then when you start spreading it online, that stuff spreads like wildfire. It just goes completely everywhere, out of control. And it really quickly goes from just like your private hobby to something that, people can lose their jobs over this kind of thing. If their employer thinks they were in porn or something, or, they can, just be harassed terribly for years. If some of these things get out. So, yeah, it's a big issue.
Sorry about that. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is there is sex workers out there, and then there is sex trafficking. How similar or different are these? Because I'm still torn between, I don't want to stop someone who wants to work in a sex field, and I don't want someone who doesn't want to work in a sex field to be forced to. So I think I'm on the fence about how to feel about is there support for people who are sex workers? Is sex working the same thing as sex trafficking? I'm great. I'm not clear in that area. Can you help me?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think you are definitely not alone. It's not a black and white issue. It's very much nuanced. There are a lot of gray areas when we're talking about these kind of things. So we can at least say, if we're talking about the adult industry and sex work, we can say for sure that is an industry where people are working consensually. Like, they want to be there, like doing their work, making a living, in a safe way. And they don't want trafficking in their industry. It's very much not something that anyone wants. But then you do have people who are, who have, not the workers' best interest in mind, and they might be abusive partners, or, a boyfriend or a husband who's, forcing them into situations that they don't want to be in. And I think a lot of times when we talk about these things, we talk about either or. But really, it's, the adult industry has been working to help prevent sex trafficking for years and years and years, and to kind of stop people who are exploiting workers. There have been examples of like classified ad sites where people would try to find sex workers to hire, like escorts in person. And those websites would help law enforcement and say, we think this is something that's not above board, and maybe you should step in. We're reporting this. And unfortunately, a lot of times those websites get a bad rap. They get demonized because they think people think, oh, there's exploitation happening on the websites. But if you get rid of those websites, you're just driving all of it further underground, and it's harder to find. So yeah, it's an issue that it's hard to kind of sum up because there's so many nuanced things going on within it. But I think definitely we need to kind of keep having that conversation and keep looking to people who are actually doing the work consensually and see what they're doing right and the safety measures they're taking, and kind of apply that to how we want to talk about exploitation and trafficking and things like that.
This sheds a whole lot of light on it. No, I had no idea. I didn't have an idea where I thought you were going with it. So thank you for answering that question for me. Our time is up. I knew our time was going to go super fast. This is a hot topic. Thank you for being the journalist that you are and putting this book together, How Sex Changed the Internet and the Internet Changed Sex by Samantha Cole. Where would you like for people to pick up a copy of your book?
Anywhere books are sold, bookshop, your local bookstore, Amazon. It's out today. So, yeah, anywhere that you can find it, pick it up.
Fantastic. Much success as you continue to spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to This Needs to Be Said. I hope you've gained something from what has been shared. Send me your comments and show ideas through the website at tntbsmedia.com. I'd love to hear from you.